let's get cracking on it. So you may have watched the last video where we looked at spirituality as individualism within the context of the Protestant Reformation in Europe. In this lesson, we're going to continue that theme and particularly look at spirituality as individualism in the context of the decline of religion within Europe as well. So our lesson objectives are to focus on spirituality, religiosity, and individualism within the European context. This is interesting in particular because Europe had a very strong organized religion, namely the Catholic Church prior to the Reformation, and then Christendom in general post the Reformation. And until relatively recently, levels of church attendance were extremely high. Of course, in the Middle Ages, they're around 100%. And yet now, especially in countries such as the United Kingdom, my country, France, the Netherlands, church attendance has dipped to around 20%, even lower. And people subscribing to religions has decreased significantly as well. So we're going to track the decline of the Universal Catholic Church and a rise of individual forms of belief, i.e. spirituality, in this context and how it relates to individuality as well. Individuality perhaps being something which comes from European forms of capitalism and secularism, which, as we saw in the previous lesson, could be linked to the Protestant Reformation. So subpoint to this lesson objective is the spiritual revolution, let's call it that, the number of people identifying as spiritual rather than subscribing to a religion, which we will call a system of supernatural beliefs centered around a strong code of rules. The number of people switching from religious to spiritual, is that a new reformation of sorts? And then finally, we're going to consider whether the rise of personal spirituality is the result of the decline of organized religion, or more, we're going to consider how it is the result of the decline of organized religion. Okay, so let's get going. Do you know who these two people are? I think you might recognize the guy on the left, the bald chap, Mr. Baldy over there, from a previous lesson. His name is Emil Durkheim. And then on the other side, the chap with a bit more hair, his name is Max Weber. Why are they important? Because we're going to be taking a particularly sociological point of view in this lecture. And these two people are, to some extent, the fathers of the study of sociology. So that's the study of societies and how humans live together. Now, what's the difference between these two people? They did espouse quite different views from each other. So Emil Durkheim, particularly in the field of religious studies, he was a functionalist. So he believed that religion or that kind of belief was the underpinning of society. Religion has a functional aspect in that it brings people together and allows people to function together. It's the glue which binds a society together. And without it, we start to see the collapse of society. So Durkheim was particularly interested in how rates of suicide, as we'll see, increase when there is a decrease in religion and an increase in industrialization. Max Weber took a different tack, as we said. He believed more that religion was a motor in society, so not quite underpinning society, but something which drives societal change. So particularly with regard to Calvinism, which is a Protestant sect, a Protestant denomination named after the theologian John Calvin, he argued that this kind of belief was an engine for the increase of capitalism. So let's first have a look at Max Weber. So bearing in mind that he believed that Calvinism, especially because Calvinism as a religious doctrine, believes in something called predetermination, predestination. And this doctrine is the idea that God decides everything which you are going to do, and therefore whether you go to heaven or to hell before you die, before you're even born. Now, there are complex theological reasons for this to do with God's omnipotence, so God being all powerful, and God's omniscience, God being all knowing, knowing everything. And to square that circle, the theologian John Calvin said that everything that happened is preordained by God. What does this mean for the individual believer, the Calvinist Christian? Well, this means that you go through life believing that no matter what you do, it was already decided. So if you are among the elect, and elect means people who are due to go to heaven in the Christian context. So if you are among the elect, it was already decided. And if you're among the damned, the people due to go to hell, there's nothing much you can do about it. In fact, there's nothing you can do about it because God decided it already.